Coming up on this episode of the Locked On Bucs podcast, we are going to talk about some prop bets for the Buccaneers and Dolphins. We are going to give our predictions for the game, our players, our bold predictions, our score predictions. We're going to talk about a documentary coming up about Tom Brady, and we're going to go through the injuries, who's in, who's out from what we know right now.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome to the Locked On Bucs podcast, and thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen every day. I am James Yarko, joined as I always am by David Harrison. You can find everything that we are doing over at BucsNation.com. Make sure you're following along on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarko_Bucs, at DHarrison82, and at Bucs_Nation. Locked On Bucs is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube now. So if you're watching, we thank you. If you're not, please do head over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and check us out over there.
Yeah, and if you're already watching, please click that subscribe button and click the notification button to find out when we drop any of our videos. We drop multiple videos a week, not just the 5 full episodes. We've got other videos that drop from time to time as well, so make sure you check those out. And thank you for making the Locked On Bucs podcast your first listen every single day. Today, we're talking predictions, projections, prop bets, and we're going to start it off with injuries. James, Carlton Davis heading to the injured reserve. I don't think we had any expectations that he would play this weekend, but how surprised are you that he will be out for at least 3 weeks now, being placed on IR? Even if it's short-term IR set to return, it's at least 3 weeks that he'll have to miss now. And then, of course, the bye week is going to be right around the corner. So not only that, but we've got some injury updates. But first, your thoughts on Carlton Davis heading to the IR?
Not surprised in the slightest. That looked like a bad injury. If he's only out for those 3 weeks, I'm going to chalk that one up as a win, because quad injuries are nothing to mess with. And that one looked brutal. I mean, he went down like someone shot him. So it was really rough to watch. And the IR to me is not surprising in the least. I still think that they get Jamel Dean back this week, but obviously the question is with Carlton Davis out, and then how long, we still don't know how long Sean Murphy Bunting's going to be out. So it's not a surprise. It just stinks.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, it opens up a roster spot for the Buccaneers. And who knows, maybe after this weekend, they get inspired. They say, maybe we need another cornerback. It gives them at least a little bit of flexibility roster wise to bring up some players and keep some players on the roster. Speaking of Jamel Dean and some other Buccaneers, the injury report coming out on Thursday. We got one more before the weekend hits. That'll be the final one where all the game statuses are officially determined. Carlton Davis, obviously not a participant. He's still going to be on this week's injury report, even though he's now on the IR, because he wasn't on the IR to start the week. So you're going to see his name on there as well. Tight end Rob Gronkowski still not practicing. Patrick O'Connor, the defensive lineman, and safety Antoine Winfield Jr. also not practicing. Limited for the Buccaneers on Thursday. Running back Giovanni Bernard, cornerback Jamel Dean, outside linebacker Jason Pierre-Paul, and full participants wide receiver Antonio Brown and Chris Godwin. So obviously, no expectations that AB and 1-4 are not going to be on the field. Giovanni Bernard looking promising, right? Jamel Dean looking promising. Jason Pierre-Paul also looking promising. And listen, this is a Miami Dolphins team that, they're struggling a little bit here and there, but you don't want to sleep on anybody. Every NFL team is still an NFL team. So out of the guys that are limited, out of the guys that are full participants, we'll probably scratch them. But let's talk to the limited guys. Gio Bernard, Jamel Dean, Jason Pierre-Paul. Which one of them do you think is most likely to play? Which one do you think is least likely to play? And which one do you think is most important they do play this weekend against Miami Dolphins?
Honestly, I think all three play. I think all three are in. I think Gio's back. I think Jamel Dean's back. I think JPP is back. I think the most important is Jamel Dean. Yeah. And I realize it's kind of weird to say that over somebody like Jason Pierre-Paul, but Joe Tryon-Shoyinka did a phenomenal job in the last 2 weeks in his starts. Now, granted, he was being rotated with Patrick O'Connor, which, is he going to be
Anthony Nelson?
And Anthony Nelson. So Anthony Nelson's still going to be able to participate, but they don't have that same rotation now. Yeah. So Jamel Dean far and away is the most important, because we still don't know where Richard Sherman is on the level of where he needs to be, but he's a starter. So you need that reinforcements there. Ross Cockrell played really well, but Pierre Desir is out there. D Delaney, you need Jamel Dean back. He is by far the most important of the limited guys.
Yeah, and don't forget, I mean, the Miami Dolphins do have some speed on that offense in the wide receiver position,
Absolutely.
especially with a guy like Jalen Waddle. You want your speed guy back on the field if you can get him in Jamel Dean there. So I agree, he's the most important. And again, it's weird when you look at JPP, but Joe Tryon-Shoyinka doing enough to make Jamel Dean the more necessary return for the Miami Dolphins. Cornerback Byron Jones, limited participant on Wednesday, upgraded from being out before that. Devontae Parker also limited on Thursday, not Wednesday. Cornerback Xavier Howard was limited on Thursday after being a full participant in Wednesday. So that's actually a downgrade. So they get an upgrade in Byron Jones, a downgrade in Xavier Howard. So that Xavier Howard development is definitely something worth watching. Full participants in practice for the Dolphins on Thursday. Again, tight end Adam Shaheen, an upgrade from limited the day before. Safety Brandon Jones. Offensive lineman Greg Mance, a new addition to the Miami Dolphins injury report. And, obviously, anytime you have an offensive lineman on the injury report, that's a concerning thing for the Dolphins. But that's how they stand now. That's where the Buccaneers stand. But James, Tom Brady's in the news. I don't know if that's going to surprise anybody, but Tom Brady has some things happening. So why don't you fill in the Bucs fans and loyal listeners to the Locked On Bucs podcast in on this new Tom Brady venture?
Yeah, I mean, nothing really like groundbreaking as far as what we're going to be talking about, but just kind of an FYI situation. For those of you that have ESPN Plus, I recently just got ESPN Plus because that's where hockey is now. Thanks, guys. But starting November 16th, Man in the Arena is going to debut on ESPN Plus. It's a documentary about Tom Brady. Brady tweeted out kind of a teaser trailer. I mean, it was only about 30 seconds long, but this documentary is going to have interviews with guys like Randy Moss, Mike Vrabel, Wes Welker, Teddy Bruschi, Rodney Harrison. There's going to be more players. I'm not sure how much of his career it's going to span. Are we going to get into the Bucs years? I would assume that they kind of have to, but this is a lot of kind of Brady's rise to prominence and how he was behind the scenes, how he was on the sideline in the locker room, and kind of the excellence that he demanded of his teammates. I can't remember who it was. I'm pretty sure it was Mike Vrabel that said it, but he said that the two of them used to basically fight each other with 2x4s because they got so heated in moments. So it looks like it's going to be a really interesting dive into the player that is Tom Brady. Probably not so much the person, but the player, the leader. And it'll be interesting for Bucs fans to watch. It'll be great for Patriots fans to reminisce. But this is the guy that is leading your favorite football team. So why not get to see kind of a behind closed doors look at how he is?
Yeah, absolutely. And, led the Patriots onto the field for a very long time. Now he's leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, probably will be doing so for another 5 or 6 seasons, it seems like. And he will continue to bring winning football, hopefully, to the gridiron. And if you're putting money on Tom Brady's teams, hopefully you are continuing to put money in your pocket. And hopefully you're doing so with our friends over at BetOnline.ag, your number one spot for your pro and college football action this season. They've got a new updated site interface, all new odds, props, and contests. BetOnline continues to be your number one source for everything football. Head over to the website now. Use the promo code Locked On, and you'll get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. You deposit $100, they give you an extra 50. You've got 150 clams to go out there and run a 16-team parlay, and then you retire from your day job. Whether you're looking to bet on football, basketball, boxing, right down to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait. Take advantage of all the offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest place to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. Segment 2 here at the Locked On Bucs podcast. David Harrison and James Yarko on Twitter at dharrison82, at jarko_Bucs. The show at Locked On Bucs. James, we're going to get into our betonline.ag prop bets. We're going to get into some game lines here. But first, let's hear from a very awesome member of Bucs Nation.
What up, boys? I'm Manny from Atmore. Just wanted to ask, I don't know if you guys have, looked at what free agents are out there and so forth. I was just kind of reading through stuff, thinking about, again, our secondary is what I've been pretty much thinking about since we won the Super Bowl. I was looking at Stephon Gilmour from the Pats. I don't know. I don't know if that's a good fit. I don't know if that would be a possibility. I don't know that. I don't know what that would look like for us if we bring a guy like that. What happens to Sean Murphy Bunting? What happens to Richard Sherman? I don't know if we can even fit him on our. I don't know how much money we got to deal with. I just wanted to throw that out there, see what you guys, what your thoughts are. So it's a pretty good corner, actually. It's a free agent. I don't know if the Pats are going to re-sign him or I don't know what's going to happen there. But again, just throwing that out there, thinking about our secondary, and I think we have a good opportunity with the next few games to just kind of. We don't have to shine. We just got to get. They're winnable games with what we got right now. I feel. We'll see with Miami and so forth. But yeah, just throwing that out there, seeing what you guys think about. Just interested in your insight. All right, boys. God bless. Fire the cannons.
Manny, thank you very much for the call. Always great to hear from you. And your question has been answered. So yeah, for those that don't know, all right, the New England Patriots announced Wednesday morning they were going to release Stephon Gilmour, who has been on the PUP list, the physically unable to perform list. And that ploy worked to perfection because Gilmour couldn't officially be released until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. They were able to field a lot of phone calls from teams that were interested in trading for Gilmour before he hit the open market. The Carolina Panthers are the ones that land him for a 2023 sixth round pick. And a lot of things went into that, David. They were willing to take on the salary. They were willing to do so without renegotiating the contract, without negotiating an extension, without negotiating a workout to make sure that he was healthy. And there were some teams that were calling and they wanted to check on the health. They wanted to work him out. They wanted a physical. They wanted something ahead of time. The Panthers said, no, give him to us. We'll give you a draft pick for 2 years from now. A lot of Bucs fans were hoping that Gilmour was going to land in Tampa. I think he would have been a fit just strictly based on the body count that the Bucs have as far as the corners that are injured. But instead of getting him, the Bucs are going to face him twice at the end of this season.
Yeah, and there were some reports that the Buccaneers were interested in having talks with Stephon Gilmour in his camp, and that would have been an interesting fit. But look, that's exactly why these teams do these things. You saw the Dallas Cowboys do the same thing. They announced that they were going to waive Jalen Smith the same day, Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, and the intention is to try to drive up some interest, some attention, and get an opposing GM to pull the trigger on a trade. Now, Jalen Smith's contract a little bit more prohibitive than Stephon Gilmour's was, especially for the production and everything else. Again, Stephon was not necessarily looking to be traded because of his potential and his production. It was more his injury and what the Patriots have going on there in New England. But yeah, it would have been an interesting fit. But I mean, there's still other guys out there. If after this weekend, especially if the Buccaneers decide they still need to address the cornerback position, Gary and Conley is a guy out there, former Ohio State Buckeye, a quarterback that I know James wouldn't like to see, but he's a guy who had definitely some upside at one point in his career. DJ Hayden is a little bit older, so is Prince Mukamara, but those are also guys that are out there on the free agent market that you could see the Buccaneers potentially target and go after if they wanted to. And thankfully, that call wasn't necessarily complaining about the Buccaneers not landing that player, so we don't have to rehash the trade specifics. But I do want to talk about one thing. So when this whole thing went down, obviously it was announced that early in the morning that the Patriots were going to release Stephon Gilmour, and then they traded him. And James, we had a talk about this offline, and some people, not just Bucs fans, but some fans in general, kind of reacted and say, how can they release a player and then trade him later? That doesn't make any sense. So James kind of already hit on that. I'm just going to do this real quick. Any roster move, any roster transaction doesn't go final until 4 p.m. Eastern time on the next available day. And in the NFL, after a game week, those can't go active until Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time anyway. So any announcement that something is going to happen does not become official until 4 p.m. Eastern. So when the Patriots announced that they were going to waive him until 4 p.m. Eastern time, he is still a Patriot, which means he is still their player to do with as they wish. They could have rescinded the idea and be like, oh, you know what? We're not going to waive him. Actually, we're not going to release him. Okay. So that's number one. So that's how that happened. If you're confused about how they were reportedly releasing him and then traded him, that's why, is because it's not a move until it's a move, which is 4 p.m. Eastern time starting on Wednesday. And then the whole waiver wire thing. So I saw some people saying that, my team needs to put in a claim for Stephon Gilmour. Any player that has 4 years or more of accrued NFL playing time credited to their career does not go through waivers before the trade deadline. So if Stephon Gilmour had become released at 4 p.m. Wednesday Eastern time, he would have been free to sign with any team he wanted. There is no claims process because it's before the trade deadline. Now, after the trade deadline, every NFL player released, doesn't matter if you have 4 years or more, if you have 20 years in the National Football League. If Tom Brady gets released after the trade deadline, he goes through the waiver wire process, and the waivers after week 3 or after week 4 rather go by the current standing NFL draft order. Before week 4, it's last year's draft order. So just kind of a quick crash course in how some of these transactions work, because I saw some confusing tweets, some people adding Ian Rappaport, telling him that he was wrong. I promise you guys, most of us out here, including James and I, listen, that includes us, we are probably wrong if we think Ian Rappaport is wrong about something. So just food for thought. But James, let's get into some areas where we usually aren't wrong, and that is prop bets. Let's get into some of these prop bets that you've selected for us from our friends over at BetOnline.ag.
Yeah, none of them are anywhere as close to as fun as last week's. That was kind of the special event with Brady returning to Foxborough and all that. So these are kind of your standard prop bets that we see for every game. But the first one that I brought up here, because I find it a little bit interesting considering how much both teams kind of struggled to score early in the game last week. But there's a prop bet for a score in the first 6 minutes. Yes or no. Both of them are a minus 115. So it's not like you're going to get rich off of this. You're going to make less profit than you initially put down if you win this bet. But David, a score in the first 6 minutes. Are you taking that?
I am. I'm taking that, and it's going to be a Bucs score. I think that the Miami Dolphins. Listen, Tom Brady, I want to say it was. There was a Buccaneers player that said it himself that the Dolphins run a very similar defense to what the Patriots do, and it makes a lot of sense because Coach Flores, Miami Dolphins head coach, came from New England. And they're a very bend don't break type of defense there that they have in Miami, and they're a little bit susceptible to some plays. They're a little banged up. Again, we talked about Byron Jones and Xavier Howard on the injury report there. So I think that the Buccaneers are going to be able to get into field goal range in their first 2 drives. Now that's going to be the key there is when is their first 2 drive? When are their first 2 drives going to take place? You know what I mean? I look at this Miami Dolphins offense. I'm looking at, I think you're going to get, I think this could be a game where you can end up with more 3 and outs than anything else. And that would be quite a feat for this Buccaneers defense. But I think the Buccaneers are going to get 2 drives before 6 minutes are gone in this game. And looking at the Miami Dolphins defense, I think that they can at least get in a field goal range.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think the Bucs are in a situation where they're going to score on their first drive. They're going to go out there as much as they struggled to score against the Patriots. It may be a similar scheme, but the Dolphins don't have similar players.
Right.
The Patriots have better defensive players. So with the ease that the Buccaneers moved the ball up and down the field between the 20s, it was the red zone where they had the problem. I think they're going to be able to take that opening possession, move down the field, and be able to finish with some points. Maybe not a touchdown, but some. But speaking of touchdowns, David, the team to score the longest touchdown, the Bucs at minus 210, the Dolphins at plus 170.
I'm going to go Buccaneers on here just because Jacoby Brissett looked really bad last week for the Miami Dolphins. He looked really bad when he came in relief of Tua Tagovailoa in his first week of action, missing wide open receivers. I mean, there's a play, and I went over with Kyle Krabs. If you missed the crossover, go back to Thursday and check that out, where Jalen Waddle is wide open over the deep part of the field. It's a touchdown if he hits him, and there's no reason he shouldn't hit him. And Jacoby Brissett is looking at him when he's open, and what does he do? He checks it down.
That's Jacoby Brisket.
Yeah, so I can't have no brisket. I can't have any confidence in Jacoby Brissett until he provides us a reason to. So for that reason, I'm going Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, AB alone is a threat to take one to the house every time he touches the ball.
I'm actually taking the Dolphins, and it's something that I was thinking about heading into this game, and then I listened to the crossover, and I got some confirmation bias from Kyle Krabs. I think Jalen Waddle has the potential to bust one off. If he gets a short pass, just a short slant with as banged up as the secondary is, no Davis, no Sean Murphy-Bunting, no Antoine Winfield Jr., he could break some tackles and take one 70 yards to the house just on a quick. Waddle could be the check down. and he can take one to the house. I think that explosiveness is going to show in this game, just given how banged up the secondary for the Buccaneers is. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll take the risk and I'll say the Dolphins just because of what I believe Waddle can do against the defense.
That is a possibility. Yeah, I'll admit to that.
All right. So, David, total touchdowns for the game. So, this is the Dolphins and the Bucs combined. They're setting the over under at 5.5. Under is at minus 130. Over is plus 100.
I'm going under because I'm predicting 5 touchdowns in this game, according to my score prediction.
I am as well. So, yeah, we're both taking the under on this one. It's kind of weird, though. We're saying under 5.5, and we're both saying we're predicting 5 touchdowns. Bucs fans might be wondering what in the world we're thinking. There's a couple of other prop bets out there, finals or the first team to score. And David, you and I kind of already covered that. All kinds of prop bets over there with our friends at BetOnline.ag. But David, I'm going to miss the first quarter of this game because Beckett has hockey. It's hockey season.
Yep.
There we go. So you know what I'm doing Sunday morning when I get up? I'm getting the Gatorades and I'm getting the Built bars because there's an hour in between games. We're going to need a little something to tide us over. So I'm going to pack a couple of cookies and cream bars because they're delicious. But of course, you can also get German chocolate, orange, strawberry, salted caramel, mint brownie, double chocolate, raspberry, coconut, or cherry barcia. If you're not sure what your favorite flavor is, go ahead and order a mix box. You're going to get 2 of each of those bars, and you're going to be able to figure out which are your go-tos. Not only are they the best tasting protein bar, but they are good for you. 17 to 18 grams of protein, 130 to 180 calories, 4 to 5 grams of sugar, 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Go to built.com. Use promo code LOCKED15. That's promo code LOCKED15, LOCKED15. And you are going to get 15% off your order at built.com. Wrapping things up here on a predictive Friday episode of the Locked On Bucs podcast. David Harrison, James Yarko. We write for Bucs Nation. You can find us on Twitter at dharrison82, at jyarko_Bucs. You can find us now on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. But David, we have a voicemail before we get into our predictions here. Let's go ahead and kick it over.
Guys, this is Yusuf out here in Phoenix again. Wanted to ask you guys a quick question about OJ Howard. But before I do, let me put out a disclaimer that I'm not asking for him to be traded.
Oh, boy.
But it does go through my head sometimes knowing we need defensive help in the secondary. With that being said, what is going on with OJ Howard? Because I feel like when Bruce is up there talking about him, he'll make comments like his pad level's too high. He's still not really where we want him to be coming off of an injury. Those kind of comments, and it doesn't exactly exude a lot of confidence, a lot of enthusiasm. And I get it. I'm just a fan. I'm not a coach. I'm just reading in too much into it, probably. I get all that. But knowing that we have Gronk playing at a high level, essentially as our starter, Brady's playing really well, and OJ Howard is just kind of like, meh, kind of in limbo, it feels like. Like, is this the case of wrong place, wrong time for OJ Howard, knowing that we have Gronk? Short term, but we have Gronk. I don't know, guys. This is his 4th or 5th year. Like to know what you guys think. I hear all the noise. I hear all the pros and cons, all these things about why we shouldn't keep him, why we should keep him, all that stuff. I get it, guys. Trying to be as objective here as possible. Like to have a conversation. Like to know what you guys think about OJ Howard going forward and what's going on with him presently. Anyways, guys, as always, go Bucs.
All right, Yusuf, thank you very much for the call. And I've talked about this on a couple of different platforms. David, you know that I'm not thrilled with OJ Howard, but at the same time, he's coming back from the Achilles. He's still not 100%. He's still kind of working his way back into the game. But I'm going to answer Yusuf's question with a question, and then I'm going to kick it over to you. OJ Howard, and I'm going to throw Ronald Jones in this category too, because I've seen a lot of it on Twitter. Why don't they just trade Rojo for a corner? If you are the GM of an opposing team, are you willing to give up a starting caliber corner for what, 12 more weeks of OJ Howard or 12 more weeks of Ronald Jones? They're both free agents after the year. Given the production you've seen from them, are you willing to give up a starting caliber player for one of those two guys? Because I'm not. This isn't Madden where you turn on forced trades. The Bucks trade value that they would get back for OJ or a Ronald Jones is not what Bucks fans want it to be or think it is. You're not going to get anything for him. And with the injury to Gronk, you need OJ there. You still need him on the team. So no, OJ Howard's not getting traded for a corner. Ronald Jones isn't going to get traded at all. So people should just stop bringing that up.
Yeah. So, Yusuf, I don't think, okay, you're reading too much into it. If you're reading too much into it, I'm reading too much into it. Listen, yeah, I'm never going to call somebody a liar, you know what I mean? But there's coach speak, and there's leaders of organizations that protect their players, and they do what's best for the organization, not what's best for the fan base and for the media. And that's perfectly fair. That's their job. So Bruce Arians coming out there and saying, OJ's still recovering and he's still this, he's still that. Look, OJ Howard played 65% of offensive snaps last week. Okay. 65 is not 100, but 65 is a lot more than like 30, 33, 40. And if you're still healing, right, from an Achilles injury, 65% of an offensive snaps for a guy still healing from an Achilles injury, that's a lot of snaps.
Mhm.
And he played a lot of them in line. So he's in a 3-point stance that puts strain on your Achilles, right? I no longer, I guess I'm going to put it this way. I'm not really buying the injury thing. I think OJ Howard doesn't fit or doesn't understand this scheme. And this isn't the first time we've had this conversation. We've seen him essentially relegated to being more of a blocking tight end than anything else. And to be quite honest with you, when he's had opportunities to go out there and be an effective receiver for the offense, he hasn't pulled through. I watched him against the New England Patriots, and I watched him go out there in routes. I don't think Tom Brady looked at him one time when OJ Howard went out there and ran a route as a receiver. I don't think the team has confidence in him. I don't think the offense has confidence in that. I don't think Tom Brady has confidence in him. So why is OJ Howard still a Tampa Bay Buccaneer? Well, here's why. The top available tight end right now in the National Football League free agent pool, according to NFL trade rumors, James, is Trey Burton. Okay. Trey Burton, who had 28 catches last year. 28 catches is what Trey Burton had last year. So if Rob Gronkowski, who has an extensive injury history, goes down and you don't have OJ Howard, you now have Cam Brate and Cody McElroy. That is why OJ Howard is still a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, because even with his deficiencies, even with the not fitting necessarily, or the not getting it, or the not producing in clutch moments, he is better than the alternative options out there. And James is completely right. You're not getting a starting caliber cornerback in exchange for OJ Howard. You're getting a 6th-round draft pick, maybe a 5th if you're lucky, from a guy for OJ Howard. Okay. Ronald Jones, same thing. You know who the best running back is on that list? Todd Gurley, who hasn't been Todd Gurley in about 4 years. So Ronald Jones, first of all, he's got value to this offense. We've seen him play. He's actually getting snaps. But those are the reasons why these guys are still Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because this team's not worried about the future. They're not looking to stockpile draft picks. They're not looking for young guys to develop. That's why CJ Henderson didn't come here. They're looking for guys that can help them win now. And a 6th-round draft pick next year for OJ Howard is not going to help you win a Super Bowl. But guess what? If Rob Gronkowski has to go on the IR, or if Cam Brate has to go on the IR, OJ Howard, for as deficient as he has been really in this offense and with his own injury problems, he can still help you win a Super Bowl more than a guy like Trey Burton can, which is who you're going to turn to if almost cussed there, if the worst case scenario happens.
If the poo hits the fan, is that what you were going to go with?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, geez. I do love me some Trey Boo Boo, though. All right, David, let's go ahead and get into our predictions. I'm going to go ahead and kick things off on this one. My predicted player of the game, I'm staying in the flames. I'm riding the hot hand. It's Leonard Fournette. I honestly, I'm really going to double down on like a bold prediction with my predicted player of the game. Ronald Jones is going to see less than 5 snaps. It's going to be all Leonard Fournette. In 4 games this season, The Miami Dolphins have allowed a 100-yard rusher 3 times. Leonard Fournette is going to go over 100 yards on the ground. He's going to get in the end zone twice. All right, Leonard Fournette is going to be the offense for the Buccaneers against Miami.
I like how you throw bowl predictions into your player, but like I really do dig that you do that almost every week, and I like that about you. It's
I don't
very
do that
entertaining.
every week.
Ronald Jones played 13 snaps against the New England Patriots, and one of those snaps, he
Was-
blew a blitz pickup. Yeah, he scored a touchdown, but he also blew a blitz pickup. 5 though, woo, I don't know if I would go 5, maybe 10. I could see that, but I like the boldness in your prediction. I like Leonard Fournette. I mean, regular season Lenny is looking pretty good and looking better every week, it seems. My player of the game is going to be safety Mike Edwards. I was expected to start in place of Antoine Winfield Jr. And listen, if Antoine Winfield Jr. somehow miraculously plays and Mike Edwards is relegated to a backup role, at me all you want, but I'm not going to take the blame for that. So, of course, I'm assuming that Antoine doesn't play. My player of the game is me, Mike Edwards. That's going to roll right into my bold prediction, which is that Mike Edwards is going to have 2 interceptions in an NFL game for the first time since about 2 weeks ago.
So
that's what's going to happen. I guess it'll be 3 weeks ago once the game starts, right? So that's my bold prediction is that Mike Edwards is getting 2 INTs off of Jacoby Brissett.
Any tutties?
Sure. I'm not going to add him. I'm not going to add him officially to my bold prediction.
All right,
just because I have a co-host that likes to call me out for the finer details. So I'm going 2 interceptions. Touchdowns would be great, but I'm sticking with the interceptions.
I just had to say, if you were going to make a bold prediction that Tom Brady throws 9 touchdowns, then your predictive score needs to reflect that prediction.
Reinforces my point of having a co-host that likes to nitpick everything that I say. So I'm going to stick with just 2 interceptions.
All right. My bold prediction, it's a double-sided coin here. I'm going to talk about the defense and the offense. So, I mean, what is that? Give me like 3 bold predictions in this segment, David.
Pretty much.
The defense is going to have 5 sacks and 3 takeaways.
I like it.
While the offense allows no sacks and has 0 turnovers. So it's going to be a big-time performance from the defense. The offense is going to play a clean game. Notice I didn't bring up penalties because that's probably still going to be ugly. But David, that's going to roll me into my score prediction. I'm going to take the Buccaneers in this one, 30-17.
Yeah, and I'm going 24-17. I like the comparison to the Dolphins defense to the Pats defense. Again, not as talented, so you see the higher score output for the Buccaneers there. But I do think they're going to play a little bit more bend, don't break. That's going to cause longer drives. It's going to cause fewer possessions and a potential field goal. You know, maybe even Ryan Suckup misses a field goal opportunity. You don't want to see it, obviously, but 24-17 is where I'm going. And honestly, I kind of want to make it 24-10. I don't have a lot of confidence in that Dolphins offense, but it is the NFL, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. And yeah, that's going to be my score prediction. 24-17, defending Super Bowl champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
That's right. Ride that horse until we can't anymore. Thank you to Manny and Youssef for calling in, and we apologize to Matt and Dan. We weren't able to get to your voicemail. Why are you holding up a Buckeye helmet? Knock it off, sir, please. Matt and Dan, we apologize for not being able to get to your voicemails earlier in the week, but we promise to try to do better. If you want to send in your reactions to the game, you can do so by leaving us a voicemail at 813-444-5841, or you can email us at lockedonbuckspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for making the Locked On Bucs podcast your first listen every day, free and on all platforms, including now YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel. It's not just going to be these episodes. There's going to be more content than just this over at the YouTube channel. So please check that out and subscribe. For your second listen today, we suggest the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give you the expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It is also free and available on all platforms. Check out everything David and I are doing over at BucsNation.com. Follow along on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at JYarko_Bucs, at DHarrison82, and at Bucs_Nation. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, be good to each other. We thank you so much for joining us right here at Locked On Bucs.